This, how about you either wait till the end of the meeting or 5 minutes, whichever comes first.
There you go. Okay, you ready?
It's gonna be, is that what I heard you say?
Okay, I'd like to call the St. John Board of Stormwater Management Utility meeting to order for Wednesday, March 15th, and let the record show it is 6:01 p.m. Let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, please.
Ken Gambala,
Here.
Vanessa Merkel,
Present.
Bob Zaney,
Here.
Brian Blazak,
Present.
Joe Wizawati is absent.
Okay. Okay, did the board have a chance to take a look at the minutes from the last meeting? And if so, is there any questions, or what is the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as posted for February 15th.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second motion to approve the minutes for February 15th.
Okay, we have a second. We'll do a vote. All in favor to approve the minutes from Wednesday, February 15th meeting? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Minutes are approved. Okay, is there any old business that we'd like to bring up at this point? Any old business?
Are you looking for me?
Oh, I always happen to look at you there, Bob.
The old business, I think next month we're gonna meet up and have Sender and Dalton and Robinson present what we're doing for our stormwater fee and the rate study and all that good stuff for you guys next month. And that's pretty much it for old business.
Okay, and I think what we'll do too at that next meeting, I think we're going to break out into a study session to get everybody up to speed, and we can talk about it at that point in time. So, thanks for bringing that up, Bob. Is there any new business by chance? Anybody have any new business?
I've asked the town engineer to bring me up to speed with the cost analysis. It was already, before I got on the board, get a copy of it as far as rates and all of that. I couldn't honestly vote on anything in the future until I
Ken, did I?
see that.
I thought I sent those to. No, not that. You didn't get anything.
No, I
Okay.
didn't get anything.
Yeah, well, let's
Yeah.
Yep.
let's make sure that we just resend those out just so it's
Absolutely.
all fresh with
Why
everybody
don't you
then.
send them all, email Bob, and that
Yeah.
way you're sure everybody's got it in their possession.
You know what, maybe put in that email too, Bob, just to say maybe respond once you receive it, so that way, because a lot of times it ends up in clutter and junk files and things like that, so that way we know.
Yeah.
Thank you there, Bob.
Good idea.
Okay, is there any other new business? Any other? Okay, we'll move on to, is there any public comment? Any public comment? Seeing no public comment, we will move on to any reports and correspondences at this point.
Now, I do have a couple updates.
Great, thank you.
Jonathan Dykstra from Robinson and his team have been working with Sergio and amending our subdivision control ordinance, and they did make a few changes on the storm sewers, the design. Jonathan, you want to chime in on that
Sure.
and explain that?
Yes. This is just one of the initial changes. That there will be more, and I explained this all to Sergio, but and I'll explain why we didn't do more right now. But these were relatively easy changes to make in the ordinance. They're not intertwined with something else or other sections or the format of it. So it was very easy to change the or recommend the change to a storm sewer design level increase or a higher bar from 5-year design to 10-year.
Oh, okay.
And then with a caveat of how that should be done and interpreted. So I reference keeping the HGL, that's the hydraulic grade line, in a calculation of the water flowing through a sewer. So keeping it at the top of the pipe rather than the rims. So that way, the storm sewers would be designed and actually have some extra capacity above and beyond, say, that 10-year design. And maybe we can avoid some of these after construction complaints that residents might have. Hey, it's ponding in my street. And I know we don't expect them to understand the design, but this would make that maybe a little better and maybe avoid some phone calls, so.
Sure. And in layman's terms, is that upsizing pipe size as well?
Yeah, it would result in some cases, upsized pipes.
Right.
And so, and there are some other changes that we have in mind, and I started to work on that, and then I saw that it was going to be a lot more effort. It might require some new definitions, it might require changing some, might require reconsidering a few different things. So at first I was going to give that all to Sergio, and then it was too much. Oh, I did change one of the tables that's referenced in there had incorrect rainfall numbers, so I changed those, and that Sergio has that as a recommended change. So we did fix that. And the rest, I had provided Sergio. He had talked to me about, he had a concern about fees for plan reviews, for for all these. And so I gave him some sample language from another city's ordinance. So I said, here, this is just an example. And so he did incorporate a bunch of those fees, so that he added that in. So this is all in the and that's going to help. Like, we don't have the utility fee right now, so that won't necessarily be for doing like stormwater or MS4 stuff, but it will help the town overall with development, especially when there's a lot coming in. So.
And inspections.
And
so on.
inspections, right.
Yes.
The inspection end was kind of nothing covering that, so.
Right.
This will help with that too, yeah.
Right.
So, and it's up to ultimately the council, of course, so.
Yeah, I was just going to say, once this moves forward, and that's great news that, you know, we've looked at this and we're addressing some things. And then, obviously, there's going to be more, but this
Right.
is the initial start.
Yeah,
so
initial
then-
start. And there's some other, I don't know all the other changes offhand, but some concern extending sanitary and water main across. If a development kind of has a gap, they need to complete the water main route, and so it's a little more robust, because we had that issue with one, so that's
Yeah,
kinda.
we don't have to bore
We don't
them
have to go into all
bore them
that.
with all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. But things are going on that precipitate, hey, maybe we should do this a little different.
Right.
And that's what's happening.
And also, according to our general permit, going over our ordinances and updating our ordinances is part of what we need to be doing.
Right.
So we have started, and it's a good start.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
We're moving forward.
It's a work
and-
in progress.
And exactly, and you're
Process,
getting
so.
that foundation in place. And
Yep. And also, I'd like to thank two of the board members that actually showed up to that NISWAG meeting.
Yeah.
And you got to understand dealing with the developers and contractors side of it and what all entails that part of it. So thanks for going and
Sure.
checking it out. I appreciate it.
I did see you there, Bob and
Hi.
Ken. You know, it was a well-attended event, and yeah, there's always a few things that you pick up here and there, so that was good. And thanks for bringing that up at the last meeting too.
Is this changes to the pipe sizes and infrastructure? You're also going to change acre feet on the detention ponds too? Increase those, or?
Well, no, it won't affect that yet. There are other changes that will affect that. Right now, I'll give you an example of one item. Right now, when someone builds, let's say a 50-acre subdivision, and you know they're going to have a detention pond, what they're allowed to release, the town has what would be recognized as a rather old approach to it. And so even, Lake County and most of the towns in Lake County have gone to a fixed release rate based on the acreage of the development. So if it's 50 acres, it would be times 0.2, and that would be their release rate. So with the way the towns is, it's called a 2-year undeveloped, which means it's more subjective to the submitting engineer. Will have a different idea how to come up with that number. So this will remove that problem. And so that's one of the changes we want to do. And then it would be in line with Lake County too.
So there's going to be changes for them on their modeling then? For
Oh,
that
sure,
purpose,
yeah. Yeah, their calculations would all change, yeah. Yeah, but they're doing it in other towns, so they're not, most of these developers that we see, and most of the engineers for the developers here, we see them in other towns, and they know they're doing it over there, so it won't be a
Okay,
big
well,
jump.
my point is then we could justify the pushback for
Right,
increase,
yeah,
okay.
Right, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, there'll be a public hearing, and there'll be the few squeaky, yeah. They call them squeaky wheels, right? Concerned citizen developers.
For the public consumption, Jonathan, can you just quickly touch on the size of the pipe for the 5-year sewer and the 10-year? What's the difference in size? You said there's a difference.
There could be a difference,
Oh, could be.
not always. But I can give you an example where it
That's-
might.
I'm
yeah.
looking for it from general
Yeah,
consumption.
yeah, no, great. So, because there's a lot of factors that would depend on, like, what's the little drainage area to that inlet? How large?
much can it-
Yeah.
yeah,
So
handle.
let's say it's a third of an acre, and right now the calculation might require it be a 12-inch pipe, so it's a 1-foot pipe, for a 5-year, the way it's done now. For a 10-year, it might be a 15-inch pipe. So we would expect to see in a few cases, not in every link along their route, but here and there, maybe every other one might be an upsized pipe, and then ultimately would be a better system, so.
So in other words, it's be able to take in more water
Yes, yeah.
initially.
Yes.
And then as it moves along the system,
Mm-hmm.
the pipe can reduce in size or in diameter?
No, they always increase as you go downhill. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, the final one that goes into a pond, say, that's gonna be the biggest one. So they would start smaller and then keep
And then grow in
keep
diameter.
increasing, yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we would expect some upsizing, especially with the what I call the hydraulic grade line requirement to keep it in the pipe. And it's just a line based on a calculation. Computer programs generate it, so it's not a difficult thing for engineer to come up with. So it's done in other places, but I put in there the line, or as approved by the town engineer, which mean there might be circumstances to be flexible, and there are some circumstances where, because they're matching an invert, and it's okay that it's above the pipe, and so we want flexibility to, let something like that, yeah, that's okay, so.
And the main gist of it too is just to, again, keep the flows in the pipe and not
On the.
have them
Yeah.
flooding up
Yeah, or-
on the surface, yeah.
See, it was like a minimum standard where, are we gonna design just minimally, or can we have a little factor of safety in it for the benefit of everyone in town? So, and that's the intent of that.
Very good.
Basically, in your opinion, and I'm not gonna hold you to it, but is that probably the reason why we do have water buildup occasionally on, streets and so on and so forth, is just because the storm overcomes the sewer system and it can't deal with it?
In certain storms, that could be the cause. Storm sewers, if they're only designed for a 10-year, is what we call it, and that's a little bit of a misnomer, but they can always be exceeded, because we're not telling them they have to design them for the 100 year.
100 year,
Yeah.
right.
And once in a while you do, if you can't get your water around a big box building or something, you have to put in a big pipe, because you can't let it go over land, so. So they do that sometimes, but in general, they will always be exceeded. So you always, like, in a dip in a road, you're gonna see it pond. If you get something much larger, a 25-year maybe.
Just
or-
because of
Yes,
gravity,
Yeah, yeah, so.
Yeah, there's a school of thought that some of the pipe should also be used for storage besides just a detention pond.
Right,
Not
and-
necessarily get it
Yeah,
all out.
and that's common in a major roadway project, they'll do pipe detention, yes. Because they don't have land to put a pond out, it means more right of way if they had to do
Well,
that.
yeah, the general public always comes and says, well, there's, this floods and that floods and so on and so forth. And I just want it to be out there, the fact that you plan for, and you're talking 5 and 10 year. And now you're saying 25 year, and of course you've mentioned 100 year. And of course, those are all varying very
Yeah,
widely.
yeah, it varies widely.
So, we'll all be long gone by the time the 100-year rain hits.
Yeah, okay.
Well, on that positive note,
on that positive note, with weather, it's always a mystery.
It's called unpredictable.
Yes, it's unpredictable. So we do the best we can, being mindful. We're not trying to cause a super expensive development for a developer. I mean, we do want new houses. So this won't stop that, but it will help the residents who are gonna live there have a little better product that they drive on every day. So when you do get the 3 inches in an hour and a half rain, it might be able to handle it, whereas now it does not.
Right.
And then, Bob Davis gets a lot of phone calls or complaints, says, hey, and then you gotta send staff out. So hopefully it'll cut down on that a little bit.
Well, keep in mind, the problem too is our residents don't maintain their sewers, so they get leaves in them and scrap and twigs, and before you know it, yeah, you've got flooding. That's because the sewer's plugged. What do you call that? The inlet.
Inlets or
Yeah.
catch basins, yeah.
And therefore, if you don't clean them out, you're gonna have flooding.
Yeah, or in the winter if they're ice covered,
Frozen,
yeah,
right.
and then there's a thaw, but the ice doesn't thaw instantly, and then you get a rain, melted snow, it's gonna pond, yes.
Well, thanks for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
thank you, Jonathan. That's all I have for
Okay,
reports and
thank you, and thank you for the thorough explanation too, and your thoughts too, Councilman. Okay, anything else? All right, I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.